show you how to tie a quilter's knot or a tie-tacking knot. It's so much fun. I'll show you some ideas to use that quilter's knot in some of your quilting. But first, let's go over supplies. You're going to need some rulers to mark your quilt. So if you want them 2 inches apart, now this is determined on what batting that you use. So your batting will clearly state how many inches apart that it needs to be quilted. And it's a design element. So you can go 2.5 inches apart, and I can just set this ruler down and have your marking devices ready and just mark where I want to place it. Just put a little dot. If you want 4.5, 4, 3, you just use your rulers to mark your actual quilt project. Now the next thing you're going to need is, of course, marking tools and snips to snip your ends to make them all even. The needle pullers are very helpful. I have one project that's pretty thick and I can't hardly get the needle pulled through. So you can also use little needle tips. So you have your needle pullers, you have a needle threader in case you need it. We also have some curved tweezers, and I'll show you how to use those to tie your knot. This type of tweezer would not work because it's not curved. It needs to be a curved tip tweezer to work. So if you have this one, you'll probably have a lot of trouble. The other thing you can also use in place of your tweezers, if you have forceps that you use to stuff your projects with, this is a great tool to stuff stuffed animals and things like that, pincushions. So these work great. So you can also use these or the tweezers. Next thing you need are chenille needles, candle wicking needles, something that the eye is large enough to thread whatever thread you're going to be using. And of course a pincushion. I have to have my glasses. The other thing, the threads that you can use can be just about anything. Yarn, cotton threads, floss. I mean, you can use any type of thread. As long as you can thread it through an eye of a needle, you can use it. So let your creativity soar on that. Let me show you how to make a knot. Now I have a couple of these down. Now I'm going to use this purple thread. This is a number 3 cotton. So now when I go to thread my needle, here's the eye of my needle. I place my thread over it and I pinch it between my forefinger and my thumb, and then I pull it, and then I slide the needle over the thread and just push it through, and see it's coming through. So all I have to do is grab the other side and pull it through. There we go. Now there it is. It's all threaded through my needle. Okay, so now to make the actual knot, I have little X's marked on this sample. So let me take out one of my pins, and here I have a little X. So this is like a 2-step knot. We're going to go down on one side of the X and come back up. So I'm just going to run my needle across the back and come up. Now this first little stitch is pretty tiny, as small as you can get it, but I mean, you know, within reason. Well, it can only be a certain size because you got batting in here. So here's my needle coming through the back. Now remember, I'm going through 3 layers. I have my backing, my batting, and my top. So this is why they call it tie-tacking, because you're actually quilting with a tie-tack. So here we go. I have it through there. Now I'm going to pull it through. Now this one I can pull through with my hand rather easily. Now I'm going to leave me a tail because I'm going to have to tie this. Now I'm going to go back in, but I'm going to go on just the right side of where I went in, just a hair over, and I'm going to come out on the other side. So I'm going down and back up just on the other side of where I come out the first time. So there it is. There's my back. And you don't want to pull this real tight. It's up to you what look you want. Now, this actually has locked in our stitch. So we could just go ahead and tie a simple overhand knot. So just right over left, left over right. I usually switch my hands and tie it again. There you go. But let's say if you have trouble with your fingers and you need to tie a knot. So let's make another one. I'm just going to go down, straight down in, back up, pull it through, and leave a tail. I'm going to go back down in my sandwich here, come back up. So I'm just a little bit away from it there. Pull it through. Give it a pull. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim this tail. Now let me show you how to use the tweezers. It's very simple. I usually put my ends at the top. I pick up one of the ends. Here's my other end. And I'm going to take this tweezer, go under it. So in other words, all I did was wrap it. See that? All I did was wrap it. Now I'm going to pick up the end of the other. And I'm just going to pull it through and tighten. Now we can go ahead and just switch them. I'm going to pick this tail up, go around, come back and pick up this end, pull it through, tighten. So if you have tweezers that are large enough and comfortable for you to hold, even if you have a little arthritis in your hands, you know, they don't move as like they used to, this will work. So this one has a nice thumb grip. So now all we have to do is pull it and decide on how long you want it. I actually do about an inch. Here's an inch. You can go 1.5 inches, whatever you want. If you go, like, you could even probably go 3/4, but if you go shorter than that, this might fray a little bit. But, I mean, whatever you want, it really doesn't matter. You just don't want them too short, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, and then after you do 100 or so of these, you won't even have to measure. You'll just know how long to make it. So that's how we do this simple knot. Now, I want to show you another sample. This sandwich, I have a top, a layer of cotton bat, a layer of Insul-Bright, and another layer of cotton bat and a backing. So I want this to be a pot holder for a heavy pot that I don't have to worry about, you know, burning up my counters. So now to do that, I have my needle threaded. Now since this one is so dense, I'm going to have to do this in a stabbing motion. So I'm going to go down into my marked X, bring up leave a tail, come back up, just take a little bitty bite, come back up, make sure I don't lose my tail. Now I'm going to go back down just like I did before. Sometimes the second one, you can go ahead and just bring it up on this side. But now once it gets to this point, I can't really push my needle through very easily. So if you take your needle puller, love this needle puller, and you just slide it over your needle and you give it a pull, it comes right out without much force. So now we have our tie tack made here. Now I can go ahead and trim this and cut it. And like I said, you can use your hands or you can use your tweezers. I'm going to switch that around, grab an end, wrap it, bring my tail end up here. So what you do is just bring it over, grab a hold of this one and pull it through. Try not to lose your end. Give it a tug, and now we have a double knot. I'll go ahead and trim it. Now I'll just finish doing the rest of this and I will put a binding on it and I'll have a great hot pad. Now, for as far as design elements, I have this little panel and I'm doing some hand quilting on it and some tie tacking. Now you can see where I have this tree. So I decided to tie tack some of my quilt here. So I basted my quilt, but you can see I just tie-tacked in certain points. So it makes a great design element. You don't have to do the whole quilt. You can do part of the quilt, whatever you want to do, but it just gives your quilting just a little more oomph, especially for baby quilts. Now, another reason why you want to do the double knot, because if you think, oh, maybe I'll just do it one time and tie a knot. Well, if you don't do the double knot, remember that quilt I was telling you about? I made when I was about, I don't know, I know I was probably maybe 20 or so. Anyway, this one is rather old, but you can see, now I tie-tacked this probably with DMC floss. Now, I remember that when I was reading, I wanted to use cotton batting. And I read the directions on the cotton batting, and it said to quilt every 1 to 2 inches. See, batting's come a long way. So, and if you can see this, I'll hold it up. Can you see where that cotton batting has separated? Oh my gosh, it truly has separated. So, whenever these batting companies do put that on their label, that's what it means. If you don't quilt it the way within that range, this could happen. So luckily I did follow the directions because it is still being held by all these tie-tacking stitches. And like I said, I was probably 18 years old. So this is like 30 plus years ago. So anyway, just a little advice there. Definitely read the directions on your batting and use this tie-tacking technique, quilter's knot, as a design element to quilt your little projects, to do pod holders, baby quilts,